Chain Review Print Speaking to the Blind, celebrating 40 years of audio newspaper production. Welcome to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times podcast, recorded at the Bishop Briggs Media Centre by our amazing volunteers. You can get in touch with us via Facebook, Twitter or Instagram using @QNReview. That is @ CUEANDREVIEW. You can also contact us directly by emailing information@QNreview.com. That is INFORMATION @CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling 0141 772 3976. That's 0141 772 3976.
From the Glasgow Times, Thursday the 15th of January, news. Knife thug who stabbed friend to death in Port Glasgow faces jail. Article written by court reporter Grant McCabe. A knife thug who stabbed his friend to death is facing a lengthy jail term. Lewis Mullen, 25, attacked Jack Traynor in the common close of the victim's flats in Port Glasgow, Inverclyde on April 27, 2024. Mullen has stood trial at the High Court in Glasgow accused of murdering the 27-year-old. But he was today convicted of the reduced charge of culpable homicide while acting under provocation. Mullen will be sentenced next month. Jurors heard how the men knew each other and would sometimes play video games together. Mullen had gone to his friend's home that day. Giving evidence, he told jurors, "I thought it would be like any other time and he would invite me in. When I knocked, I could see that he was aggressive right away." The trial heard claims Mr. Traynor had a crossbow and then a knife at different stages. A struggle then spilled outside before Mullen followed Mr. Traynor back into the block. The killer said the man went at him with a knife before Mullen struck the victim with a purple-bladed weapon that he had in a rucksack. Mullen believed he had only struck his friend once in the chest, although it emerged he had also got a cut near his eye. Asked by his KC Thomas Ross how long he had to assess his options that day, he replied, "Seconds. It all happened so quickly." He believed had he turned his back, he would have been stabbed. Mullen left the scene, but later handed himself into police after he discovered Mr. Traynor had passed away. Prosecutor Wojciech Jagielski later put to Mullen why he had not simply walked away after they had been outside. He replied, "We were friends. This was not the Jack I knew. I thought I could calm him down." After the verdict, Mr. Jagielski said Mullen had a number of previous convictions but had never been sentenced to jail. Rod Rinucci continued his remand in custody as sentencing was deferred until February the 12th in Dundee. That article was written by Grant McCabe and read by Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Thursday the 15th of January 2026, from the news section, exclusive. Protest outside Glasgow City Chambers fails to halt development. This article is an exclusive written by Amanda Keenan. Furious campaigners gathered outside Glasgow City Chambers to protest over the controversial plans to build an access road they claim will destroy treasured green space. Carmel residents said they were deeply disappointed to learn that councillors had voted through an amendment to the original plan of the use of land being sold at Kenmure Road to Carmel developers as part of a new housing project. Approval to rubber stamp the £1.45 million deal was granted during a fiery meeting of Glasgow City Council's Contracts and Property Committee on Thursday afternoon. While a few elected members voiced concerns over aspects of the road, such as if there's ample room to accommodate it and fears it could flood, the majority voted to approve after a near 30-minute debate. The proposals have been opposed by Carmel Rerun, a community action group set up by locals, including resident Chris Mitchell. It wants to reinvigorate the community by working to restore and reopen the community centre, reclaim the land, extend the existing 2 primary schools and upgrade the swing parks. They say the road will compromise safety as it is too narrow, is situated right next to the River Clyde and close to a busy cycle route. They also believe it will be unsuitable for the HGVs required in the construction phase of the housing development and had put forward an alternative site to the north. Chris told the Glasgow Times the group felt let down by the decision. He said, "We are deeply disappointed. We simply do not believe that this is the right location for an access road to be built. A better solution would be to look at coming through the East End, and we fully intend to keep challenging for this. We realise there is a housing emergency, and we have nothing against regeneration across Glasgow, but it must be done at the right places and at the right time. That's not here. The people of Carmel feel badly let down by what is being allowed to happen." The group, however, can celebrate one victory after it emerged during the meeting that the nearby Orchard Park, which was originally set to be lost as part of the development, is set to be saved and could remain under council control. Mr. Mitchell said, "We have been fighting hard to safeguard Orchard Park, so that was very positive news. It is a treasured community asset, and we are willing to work with the council to maintain it going forward. This will mean the people here will always have somewhere outdoors to enjoy." We told last week how talks with the group and City Property, who own the currently closed community centre, were moving forward with a view to handing the facility back to locals to run. The council's support for the disposal of the land has led to tension with the community, who have been embroiled in a long-running fight to preserve Carmel's green space, saying that plans for a sprawling housing development would have a detrimental impact on the surrounding area and local wildlife. Council officers said at the meeting that they will continue to engage with the residents and that any remaining concerns will be taken into consideration by planning officers. They also say the creation of around 400 new homes will help to ease the social housing emergency across the city. The article was an exclusive by Amanda Keenan. From the Glasgow Times, Thursday, 15th of January 2026, from the news section. Search for missing Glasgow man last seen near Glasgow Bridge, by reporter Aidan Maxwell. The family of a Glasgow man who has gone missing have issued an urgent appeal for information as police continue efforts to trace him. Brian Seeger, 45, was last seen late on Monday night in the city centre, sparking growing concern for his welfare. It is understood Brian may have been near the footpath at Glasgow Bridge, which links Eglinton Street with Jamaica Street over the River Clyde, at around 11:30 p.m. on January the 12th. Those who know him say his disappearance is out of character, and they're anxiously awaiting news as inquiries continue. Brian is described as being around 5 foot 8 inches tall, of medium build, with short brown hair. He was last seen wearing dark clothing and may have been carrying a backpack. He also could be accompanied by his 2 pet dogs. Police are urging anyone who may have seen Brian, or who has information that could help establish his movements that night, to come forward. We are appealing for information to help trace Brian Seeger, aged 45, who is missing from the Gorbals area of Glasgow. Brian is believed to have been near the footpath of Glasgow Bridge, which connects Eglinton Street with Jamaica Street over the River Clyde, around 23:30 hours on Monday the 12th of January 2026. Brian is described as 5 foot 8, medium build with short brown hair, last seen wearing dark clothing and possibly in possession of a backpack and 2 pet dogs. Please contact 101 with any information, quoting incident number PS-2026 0113-0055. That report was written by Aidan Maxwell and read by Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Thursday the 15th of January, news. Tributes paid to beloved as family left devastated after sudden death. Report by Amy Miles. Dozens of tributes have been paid to a well-loved man who has been described as the life and soul of every room following his sudden death. Stephen Glancy, from Moss End in North Lanarkshire, died unexpectedly on January the 4th at the age of 46, leaving family and friends heartbroken. Described as the life and soul of any room, Stephen was a respected drilling foreman and rig operator at BAM Ritchie's. A fundraiser launched in his memory has raised more than £10,000 towards the £11,000 target to support his family with funeral costs. Nicole Weaver, a friend and organiser of the GoFundMe page, said, "Stephen was truly the life and soul of any room he walked into. Known for his humour, warmth and infectious personality, he had a rare ability to bring people together, whether through laughter, conversation, or simply being there when it mattered. He was the kind of man everyone wanted around, and the kind of friend everyone was grateful to have. Stephen was more than just a valued colleague and friend. He was a proud football man and a passionate supporter of Celtic, regularly enjoying matches surrounded by friends." Nicole said, "A proud football man and devoted Glasgow Celtic supporter, Stephen loved nothing more than watching a match and sharing the highs and lows with friends. Professionally, he worked with BAM Ritchie's and many others in the civil engineering community, where he was well respected and formed strong friendships with many colleagues over the years, connections that extended well beyond the workplace. Beyond his professional and social circles, Stephen was described as kind, loyal and generous with his time. He was always there for others without hesitation or need for prompting. Above all," Nicole said, "he shared a profound love for his family and held a particularly close relationship with his mother. His sudden death has left loved ones not only grieving but also facing financial pressures." Nicole said, "Stephen's passing has come as a devastating shock, leaving his family and loved ones not only grieving but also facing the unexpected practical and financial pressures that accompany such a sudden loss. Donations to the fundraiser reflect the outpouring of support from the wider community as they rally together to help his family during this difficult time." Nicole said, "Stephen will be deeply missed, immensely remembered, and forever carried in the stories, laughter and lives of those who continue to love him. For those who shared the terraces, the televisions and the moments in between, one of our own is gone, but never forgotten. He'll always walk on with us." More than 150 donations have already been made to the fundraising page. The GoFundMe appeal aims to help Stephen's family with funeral arrangements and other costs following his unexpected passing. To support the fundraiser, go to www.gofundme.com. That article was written by Amy Miles. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 16th of January 2026, from the news section. Exclusive. Cannabis-infused treats and drugs worth £5,000 seized by Glasgow cops. This article is an exclusive written by Esther Tarnay. Police officers called to check in a dog found 7 kilograms of space cakes in a Glasgow property. Cops were called to an address on C Street in the south side on the evening of January the 1st, 2023. Upon arrival, they saw that the door was slightly ajar and nobody was home. They entered to find identifying documents when they were hit by a strong smell of cannabis emanating from the bedroom. Inside, they found several bags of cakes, cookies, gummy sweets and chocolate bars infused with cannabis, known as space cakes. They also came across 0.5 kilogram of cannabis in an airtight bag. Altogether, 7 kilograms of the Class B substance was recovered, valued at around £5,000. During the police's visit, Andrew Brown returned with his partner and confirmed this was his home. The drugs were seized by the force, as the 25-year-old stated they belonged to him. Brown appeared at Glasgow Sheriff Court this week after he pleaded guilty to causing unnecessary suffering to a black and grey Staffordshire Terrier by leaving it without adequate food and water and leaving drugs accessible to it. He also admitted a separate charge of being concerned in the supply of cannabis. His lawyer told Sheriff Simon Sweeney that his client is a first offender who has not been in trouble since this incident. She continued, "He said he was holding the cannabis for somebody else. There is a background of a difficult upbringing and an ongoing cannabis issue, but he has taken steps to engage with his GP and get some help." The solicitor told the court that Brown accepted what he did was wrong and was assessed at low risk of reoffending. Sentence was deferred for good behaviour until May 13th, 2026. That article was an exclusive written by Esther Tarnoy and read by Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 16th of January 2026, from the news section, Glasgow funeral directors shocked after car struck hearse, by Morgan Carmichael. A Glasgow funeral director has been left in shock after a car struck one of its hearses and drove off. Anderson Maguire Funeral Directors in Shettleston said the incident took place around 5:40 p.m. on January 15th, 2026, when one of the hearses was parked outside Stamperland Drive. The car that struck the hearse is believed to be a silver Ford Fiesta and will be missing its near side wing mirror. The business said it had been left deeply disappointed by the circumstances, which should have been handled with care and respect. Anderson Maguire Funeral Directors has now issued an appeal for anyone who has dashcam footage, doorbell camera footage, or witnessed this incident to get in touch. Taking to Facebook, the business said, "No one should be able to walk away from something like this. Your support could really help us find out who is responsible." It added, "As if times aren't already difficult for families, we were shocked to be involved in an incident last night. At around 5:40 to 5:45 p.m, while one of our hearses was parked outside Stamperland Drive, another vehicle struck the hearse and drove off. The car is believed to be a silver Ford Fiesta and will be missing its near side wing mirror. This happened during a moment that should have been handled with care and respect, and we are deeply disappointed by the circumstances." A Police Scotland spokesperson said, "Around 7 p.m. on Wednesday, January 14, 2026, we received a report that a car had hit a stationary vehicle on Stamperland Drive, Clarkson. No injuries were reported, but the vehicle was damaged. Inquiries are ongoing." That article was written by Morgan Carmichael and read by Ian. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 16th of January 2026, from the news section, plans lodged to refresh outside of building at Glasgow's Four Corners. Report by Ava White. Scaffolding has gone up on the building at 203 Argyle Street in Glasgow. A prominent building at Glasgow's Four Corners could be stripped back to its structural frame and given a makeover if plans are approved. A planning application has been submitted to Glasgow City Council to make alterations to the upper floors of 203 Argyle Street, which is above the former Pizza Hut. If approved by planning chiefs, the building, which is said to be largely unchanged since it was constructed in the 1960s, would have its current facade moved and replaced. According to documents, the corner unit now appears dated and of a poor quality compared to the recently reclad units at either side of it. Applicant Clydebuilt 2 Limited Partnership says that its client is hoping that a refreshed external appearance will attract a high-quality flagship restaurant tenant. The design statement reads, "Occupying a prime location at the junction of Argyle Street and Jamaica Street, and representing one of Glasgow's famous Four Corners, this city centre site has remained largely unchanged since the 1960s. In order to attract a high-quality flagship restaurant tenant, our client wishes to refresh the external appearance of the block, raising the quality to match that of the adjacent 2020 recladding works. This document presents proposals for the replacement of the existing curtain wall facade, spanning levels 1 to 3, plus the introduction of a rooftop plant screen. Ground floor cladding, shop front glazing and internal fit-outs are all subject to the incoming tenant and will be submitted as a separate application. The proposed design aims to enhance the appearance of this prominent corner site, improve envelope performance, and future-proof a desirable commercial plot. It is noted that on the ground floor of the building, which had been occupied by Pizza Hut until August 2025, the shopfront glazing and internal fit-out will be subject to whoever takes it over. So, what work will be carried out if plans are approved? Remove the existing facade. Documents state the existing poorly performing curtain facade will be removed. Expose the structural frame. This will expose the corner unit back to the concrete structural frame. New curtain walling. A new curtain wall system is proposed with fixed, full-height glazing to achieve a clean, contemporary appearance. Add frame and fins to emphasise the corner, plus a screen plant at roof level. It is noted that to add interest and depth, vertical aluminium fins are proposed, aligning with existing structural columns with curved aluminium flashings, forming horizontal bands at the top and bottom. Additionally, to conceal the roof plant, a new perforated screen is proposed in a dark coloured metal to match adjacent black granite elevations. The proposed design aims to celebrate the important urban corner, as well as improve the appearance of the building on approach, create a consistent approach to the elevations of the whole block, and simplify and unify the facades. Glasgow City Council's planning portal states that a decision is to be made on the plans by Tuesday, December 16. However, the status remains as pending consideration. The design statement delved into the history of the building, which was previously occupied by two department stores. From the mid-19th century, the site was home to Arnott & Co. and Robert Simpson & Sons. These businesses are then said to have merged in the early 20th century. In 1951, a fire reportedly destroyed most of the four-storey block, which was then demolished and rebuilt in 1963. This was occupied by the Arnott Simpson department store until 2002, when it closed. Beaverbrooks the Jewellers was based on the ground floor of the building. This was later taken over by Pizza Hut for more than 2 decades before it shut last year. To view the application, visit Glasgow City Council's planning portal at publicaccess.glasgow.gov.uk. That report was written by Ava White.
Glasgow Times Politics on Monday the 19th of January. Anasawa vows to pass Millie's Law to establish the truth. An article written by Sarah Ward. Scottish Labour leader Anasawa has vowed to establish Millie's Law in memory of a child cancer patient who died after contracting an infection in hospital. This follows a U-turn from Scotland's largest health board, which admitted a causal connection between the environment and infections. The Scottish Hospitals Inquiry has been examining the design and construction of the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital in Glasgow and the Royal Hospital for Children, which are on the same campus. It was launched in the wake of deaths linked to infections, including 10-year-old Millie Main, who was being treated for leukemia. In closing submissions to the inquiry published ahead of final oral hearings, NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde said that it accepts that it's more likely than not that a material proportion of the additional environmentally relevant bloodstream infections in the paediatric hemo-oncology population between 2016 and 2018 had a connection to the state of the hospital water system. It added, the Health Board accepts that on the balance of probabilities there is a causal connection between some infections suffered by patients and the hospital environment, in particular the water system. The Health Board departs from its earlier submissions in this regard, having heard all expert evidence. The U-turn was hailed as a turning point by Scottish Labour leader Anasawa, who called for a corporate homicide investigation to be expanded to include politicians who he accused of a cover-up. Writing in the Scottish Daily Mail, he vowed to establish Millie's Law, which he said would create an independent public advocate with the authority to investigate incidents and to establish the truth. Mr. Sawa said, "For years, families have been forced to fight for the truth about what happened to their children at the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital. Whistleblowers were gaslit, lied to and punished for telling the truth. They've been ignored, dismissed, patronised and made to feel like they were making a fuss, attacked and victimised by NHS managers paid for by taxpayers' money. They've lost jobs and seen their personal lives targeted by institutions more interested in covering up their failures than the truth. Every step of the way they've been supported by SNP ministers who never stopped lying to hide the truth of their failure. The SNP and the board did not put patient safety and families first. Instead they, led by John Swinney, closed ranks. The University Hospital scandal is one of the worst failures in modern Scottish public life. Since the hospital opened, there's been a litany of serious problems, concerns about water safety, environmental risks, governance failures and infections that devastated families. NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde has been named as a suspect in a corporate homicide investigation relating to the deaths of patients, including 10-year-old Millie Mayne. In my opinion, so should the SNP ministers responsible for the cover-up, because this is a serious criminal matter. This latest admission by NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde should be a turning point. It should be the beginning of the end for the SNP's secret Scotland. Families deserve answers, they deserve accountability, and they deserve justice. The question now is simple. Will John Swinney finally take responsibility for the criminal failures of his government, of the Health Board and the conspiracy to lie to parents, patients and Scotland? The families have waited long enough. Now it's time for Scotland to do the right thing. Scottish Conservative Health Secretary Dr Sandesh Gulhani, MSP, said, "Queen Elizabeth University Hospital has been at the centre of several infection-related scandals from its very beginning. There is now a substantial body of evidence that points to a cover-up at the very top, which has only been exposed by this inquiry. Families like those of Millie Mayne, Molly Cuddihy and many others have waited years to get straight answers from those responsible. Those are now being extracted rather than freely given. That long and expensive process only became necessary because of a culture of secrecy. Since 2017, a succession of Scottish Government health ministers refused to intervene." He added they've all managed to escape any real repercussions for their lack of interest in a life-threatening situation. Meanwhile, a similarly long list of senior executives have parted ways with the board. Members of the public will want to know why the SNP always seems to help senior management escape scrutiny. A spokesperson for NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde said, "We remain fully committed to supporting the inquiry in its investigations." The SNP has also been contacted for comment. An article written by Sarah Ward. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 19th of January. Bearsden residents urge council to take further action over 20 miles an hour zone. An exclusive article written by Ava White. Concerned residents believe that a recently introduced 20 miles an hour speed limit has basically done nothing and further action must be taken. Members of Our Safe Streets, a volunteer-run road safety group, are urging East Dunbartonshire Council to take additional steps in the rollout of its new 20 miles an hour zones. At present, this speed limit is in place on all residential roads in 2 areas of the local authority, Bearsden as part of a pilot project and in Twecher. It will, however, eventually be imposed across the whole of East Dunbartonshire in an effort to improve road safety and to encourage active travel. Following its implementation in Bearsden last September, Claire Foss, who is part of Our Safe Streets, raised some concerns that the group has about the zones. These include a reported lack of communication about the changes, a lack of enforcement and outdated GPS speed limits for the area. She said, "We're really pleased that the council keeps meeting with us, but once the pilot was officially started, basically nothing happened. Some signs went up, but the council hasn't communicated it. They've also said that they're not going to communicate it until all of the towns in East Dunbartonshire Council are 20 miles an hour, which is probably going to be months away. There's been very little enforcement. It's not done anything because there's still no messaging about why it matters. There's no enforcement to make it happen. There's been no change in road design to make it happen. We need leadership and action from the council. We need them to accept that there is a problem and to deal with the problem in a way that doesn't keep putting motorists first. The new speed limit was introduced on more than 300 roads in Bearsden following a public consultation held last year. It applies to the entire length or part of the length of each of these roads. This includes all residential streets and some main roads, such as the A739 Switchback Road and Bearsden Road, northbound and southbound, the A809 Drimmen Road and the A81 Mulgai Road. Drimmen Road in particular is a route of concern for our safe streets due to the number of nurseries and schools located on or near it. Claire noted that the newly imposed speed limit has also reportedly not been updated on GPS systems. She added, some people will have automatic speed limits on their cars, certainly any cars with black boxes, but these only work if the GPS and mapping systems have been updated. We still have councillors saying that 20 miles an hour should not be on main roads, but there are 2 nurseries here, another at the end of the road, 2 primary schools, and this is the route to the high school. The main roads are where people live and work, where they go to school, and it's where the nurseries and schools actually are. It's been 20 miles an hour on the residential streets for years, an advisory 20 miles an hour, but nobody is bothered. You can't just hope that it's going to happen. We have to make it happen. If you continue on Drimmen Road past the cross, it's like going down the motorway. It's a huge, smooth, curving road, and people will just feel that they want to go faster. That's not just a driver behaviour issue. Road design influences behaviour. If you walk around here, you will see all the damaged street furniture, like knocked over bollards and smashed up railings. Nobody hits the railing at 20 miles an hour and puts a massive dent in it or takes out the pedestrian lights. It's just wild. It comes as Glasgow is set to roll out a default 20 miles an hour speed limit on around 3,700 streets in the early part of this year. The city joins Edinburgh, which has had 20 miles an hour zones since 2016. Eleanor McPherson, another member of Our Safe Streets, commented, "If you look at all the measures Glasgow has taken, I feel like East Dunbartonshire could learn from Glasgow. They've produced really good mapping, which shows the average drive time on a lot of roads is already around 20 miles an hour, so you're not slowing your journey, you're just evening it out. The council is also getting behind the message. It's built an infrastructure and it's acknowledged that it's already had an economic benefit to Byres Road, where it was put in place a while ago. There is no desire to change here. This is the perfect case study of how not to implement 20 miles an hour zones." Anne Davey, the chief executive at East Dunbartonshire Council, said, "The decision to introduce 20 miles an hour zones throughout East Dunbartonshire was agreed at our Place, Neighbourhood and Corporate Assets Committee in October of 2024. We then followed the statutory traffic regulation order process for the individual geographical areas, commencing with Twecha and Bearsden. The road signs installed as part of the pilot are prescribed in the Traffic Signs and General Directions regulations, and in Bearsden over 1,000 repeater 20 miles an hour signs and 48 terminal signs have been installed. The enforcement of speed limits sits with Police Scotland. The traffic regulation orders for the new 20 miles an hour speed restrictions for Bearsden have been submitted, and satellite navigation companies will use this information to update their databases. The 20 miles an hour speed restrictions align with broader Scottish Government and local policies aimed at making streets safer, reducing road danger and improving public health. We're committed to ensuring that our roads are safe for drivers, cyclists and pedestrians. The full rollout of the 20 miles an hour speed restrictions will be widely communicated across East Dunbartonshire, and it's expected to take place later in 2026, following committee approval. An exclusive article written by Ava White. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 19th of January. Glasgow residents are urged to report and name fly tippers. An article written by Catherine Hunter. Communities in Glasgow are being urged to call out and name those guilty of fly tipping in a bid to address the problem. It comes as a document detailing the extent of fly tipping in Glasgow revealed a total of 65,216 instances across the city between January of 2024 and November of 2025. Glasgow City Council's enforcement team has been trying to crack down on fly tipping, which is a criminal offence, with those caught facing a fixed penalty notice of £500. If taken to court, perpetrators could be fined £40,000 or sent to prison for a maximum of 5 years. During last Wednesday afternoon's scrutiny committee, Council leader Susan Aitken said, "It's notoriously difficult, and always has been, to collect evidence around fly tipping and who's responsible for it. I noticed that it's spread across the city, which wasn't always the case. In the past, the fixed penalty notices were concentrated in the city centre. Most of the fixed penalty notices are now in Southside Central. Is that as a consequence of you targeting your enforcement resources where the highest number of reports are?" A council officer confirmed that they take the information available and use that data to inform deployment teams. Councillor Eunice Jassemi said, "I have real frustration about this. The enormous ratio between the fly tipping reports and the number of fixed penalty notices isn't good enough for a city the size of ours, especially as we have the Commonwealth Games coming and other national events. How can we justify an enforcement rate of just 0.6%? Is there a benchmark or quality of standard of the rate of enforcement in the city?" The council officer said, "I acknowledge the difficulties of it, and a lot of the time we can't identify who's been fly tipping, and that means that we don't have the evidence. My call out is to the communities. You must know who is doing this. Please give us that information. We can take your statements and we can utilise that information. We can't do this as an enforcement service on our own. We have 8 officers employed to deal with fly tipping throughout the city. It's a really challenging situation for me, but when we have the intelligence, we will send the staff out and we will deploy them in the hope that we get the evidence that is required to issue the fixed penalty and to change people's behaviour." An article written by Catherine Hunter. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 19th of January. A Glasgow taxi driver is refused a new licence after overcharging passengers. An article written by Drew Sandilands. A Glasgow taxi driver who was suspended after overcharging passengers has been refused a new licence. Arsalan Khan has lost his bid to renew his taxi driver's licence for another 3 years due to his conduct. He told the city's licensing committee that he'd been suspended after giving the wrong price, but he insisted that he had learned his lesson and requested another opportunity. At a licensing committee meeting last year, councillors were told that complaints had been made to the Taxi and Private Hire Enforcement Unit about Mr Khan trying to charge too much. One passenger had said that they were asked to pay £25 for a journey which normally cost around £13. Another complainer said that he'd been quoted £25, with the meter turned off. Last Wednesday, Councillor Alex Wilson from the SNP, who chairs the committee, said, "We have suspended your licence because of what happened. You gave a passenger the wrong price, or you didn't put it through your meter. Why should we give you a new licence based on the fact that you tried to defraud a member of the public?" Mr Khan said, "It was my mistake and I take full responsibility. I'm asking the committee to give me an opportunity to show that I've genuinely learned my lesson. I will always comply with the licence conditions." Councillor Wilson, backed by Councillor Sean Ferguson, also from the SNP, moved to refuse the application, while Councillor Leos Massey from your party, seconded by Councillor Eunice Jassemi from Labour, put forward an amendment to grant for 1 year with a severe warning. With 3 votes for each proposal, the casting vote went to the committee chairman, Councillor Wilson, and the application was rejected. An article written by Drew Sandilands. Glasgow Times on Monday the 19th of January. Lifestyle. Glasgow's young musical theatre stars are heading for a London debut. An exclusive article written by Anne Fotheringham. A Glasgow musical theatre showcase which has supported talented young performers for more than 10 years is about to make its London debut. Movies to Musicals, which gives children and young people from all backgrounds the chance to perform in top venues with stars of stage and screen, has wowed Scottish audiences since its launch. Now, the young cast from all over the country will perform at Cadogan Hall in London on the 5th of April, alongside West End stars Jacob Fowler and Jenna Innes, backed by a live orchestra. Producer Ross Gunning said that he was so excited to take his show out of Scotland for the first time. It's crazy to think that Movies to Musicals has been going since 2015 and that we've performed to more than 20,000 people, he said. Now it's time to showcase Scotland's talent on one of London's iconic stages. I'm really proud of what we've achieved so far, as no one else does what we do. We are the company putting Scotland at the forefront of musical theatre. Movies to Musicals has enjoyed guest appearances from a host of West End stars over the years, and its patrons include leading lights of stage and screen. The show will feature a range of musical theatre favourites from the likes of Wicked, Heathers, Chicago, Dear Evan Hansen, Back to the Future, Tina Turner, and many more. Movies to Musicals will be staging its Glasgow show on the 8th of March before the big trip to London, and Jenna Innes is delighted to be performing in her home city again, alongside Dear Evan Hansen star Ryan Coppell. Jenna, who played Veronica in Heathers, said, "I'm really looking forward to returning to Glasgow and performing in one of my favourite cities with such talented young people, and then taking this show to London also. It's going to be epic. I can't wait for people to see the talent on stage." Jacob Fowler, who's had roles in Heathers and The Addams Family, said, "I'm thrilled to be performing with Movies to Musicals for their London debut at Cadogan Hall. I owe a big part of my early career to musicals that were adapted from movies, so it'll be a real pleasure to pay homage at this fabulous event." Tickets are on sale for the Cadogan Hall via the venue's website and for the Glasgow concert at the City Halls via Glasgow Live's website. Movies to Musicals has produced a string of sell-out shows over the years. Recently, the cast wowed judges and viewers alike on ITV's Britain's Got Talent, where they performed a show-stopping routine and met hosts Ant and Dec. More than 2,000 young people have come through its doors during the last decade. Its patrons include former EastEnders actor John Partridge and West End director Sam Hillier, and special guests over the years have included Faye Tozer from Steps, Louise Dearman, Keith Jack, and River City star Gail Telfer-Stevens. An exclusive article written by Anne Fotheringham. Glasgow Times, on Monday the 19th of January. Lifestyle. No refunds for a woeful Wicked Wizard of Oz Hydro show. An article written by Jamie Calder. The organisers of a disastrous Wizard of Oz show performed at Glasgow's Hydro have hit back at angry attendees, saying that their opinions are subjective and not grounds for a refund. The Wicked Wizard of Oz show was advertised as a cirque spectacular and a show where panto meets cirque, but families were seen walking out in droves after witnessing scenes like the Wicked Witch being driven around the venue on the roof of a golf buggy. Thousands of complaints were posted online after the show toured the UK, with hundreds walking out of shows in Manchester and in Brighton. A Facebook group called The Woeful Wicked Wizard of Oz, a not-so-cirque spectacular, was also set up, where attendees vented their anger and disappointment at the show. However, it's since been taken down. The event has been compared to Glasgow's infamous 2024 Willy Wonka experience, which reportedly made a child cry out in fear and left parents furious. Despite calls for tickets to be refunded, the organisers have now told all ticket holders that no refunds will be made, claiming that they've consulted the Society of Ticket Agents and Retailers, litigation lawyers and industry specialists. In an email statement, they said, "We've taken your claims very seriously and have consulted the Society of Ticket Agents and Retailers, and they do not consider anything contravene their standards of practice. They've conveyed this to some people who've contacted them directly. We've also consulted litigation lawyers and industry specialists for advice, and they've advised that there are no grounds for a refund based on misleading advertising or performance content. Opinions on any live event are subjective and not grounds for a refund. We are sorry if we did not meet your expectations. A copy of this statement has been sent to relevant credit card companies, ticket agents and venues. This correspondence concludes our review of this matter. Tickets to the event were on sale for between £35.20 and £86.85 on the OVO Hydro website. The producers explained this decision, saying that the story of the Wicked Wizard of Oz was faithfully represented and that the show did involve circus elements and panto-style production. They went on to refute claims of false advertising, saying that all promotional material was filmed during workshop rehearsals and featured the acts that appeared during the live shows. They added that cirque is a descriptive word, not a brand name, and that they met the expectations of a circus-esque show with elements involving high wires, teeterboard acrobats, aerial hoop performers and other acts that are commonly seen in the genre. Dismissing complaints of technical issues, they also said, live shows sometimes have technical errors or an occasional item withdrawn for safety or operational reasons, but in a show of 328 cues, nothing occurred in the performance that you saw that materially affected the overall delivery of the show. A video of positive audience reactions was also attached to the email, with the organisers telling those who requested a refund, "It's distressing that you personally do not enjoy our show, as there was a hugely positive audience reaction, proven in the following video taken live at each venue, which also dispels some false allegations of large walkouts." An article written by Jamie Calder. Glasgow Times, Politics, on Monday the 19th of January. Reform leader in Scotland says that the independence vote should be postponed. An article written by Sarah Ward. The new leader of Reform UK in Scotland has said that a potential Scottish independence referendum should be postponed for at least 10 years. Lord Malcolm Offord defected from the Conservatives in December and said that the party is writing a manifesto for devolved matters. Speaking to the BBC Scotland Sunday show, he said that Nigel Farage would not be dictating the policies and that 73 constituencies would have candidates standing from professional backgrounds, including education, law and medicine, rather than career politicians. Mr Offord said that he was appointed by Mr Farage, but it is a relatively new party up here, and that the next 4 months would be spent preparing for the Holyrood election in May of this year. He said that the economy had to be the focus for the next 10 years, and that what's happened in the past 10 years or so is that we've created a welfare economy, and that Reform UK was not here to change that. Mr Offord said that tax revenue needed to change to cover welfare spending, and added, "I don't think that anybody wants to be a scrounger. We've got 3.5 million people of working age in Scotland, and 1 million don't work. We've got to find a way to help those folks back to work." Mr Offord said, "People are being taxed too much here. At the moment, the people with broad shoulders are actually shrugging their shoulders. They're being squeezed too far. We all want all the welfare, but let's grow the economy." The former businessman said that he would get every single legal disclosure regarding his own wealth complied with, and said that he'd always paid tax. He said that the economy needed to be boosted and said, of course, the NHS should be free at the point of use, quoting the founder, Lord Bevan, during the interview. He said there is no plan to charge for seeing a GP. Mr Offord said that John Swinney's calls for an independence referendum if the SNP achieved a majority was a doom loop. Asked if that meant he would say no to any call for a referendum, Lord Offord replied, "No, that's not constitutional." He said, "That's enough to run an administration, but not break up the country. What I can tell you is, going round the doorsteps, there is no consensus from Scottish people. They are sick and tired of the doom loop. Can we just park it? I think that it needs 2 terms of Holyrood to focus on the day job. That's 10 years. Can we please fix our economy, get our growth back, get our revenues up, come back for this later, but not now." An article written by Sarah Ward. Glasgow Times, News, on Monday the 19th of January. Retail giants Marks and Spencer weigh up an expansion in Irvine. An article written by Stuart McConnell. National retail giants Marks and Spencer are weighing up an expansion in Irvine, and the potential move has earned praise from a North Ayrshire Council cabinet member. The company has revealed 32 Scottish locations among 500 potential sites it's considering for a new or expanded M&S food store, including in Cumbernauld, Livingston and Inverness. The current Irvine offering is in the Riverway Retail Park, and it looks possible that it could be expanded or a new one set up. The retail giant is seeking larger sites capable of stocking the full range of M&S food, with a target average store size of 18,000 square feet, as part of its plan to double the size of its food business and modernise its store estate. Alex Freudman, the managing director of M&S Food, said, "The strong performance of our new M&S food stores gives us the confidence to explore even more locations across the UK, from Elgin to Exmouth. With more than 20 stores opening or modernised before the end of the financial year, we are moving faster." Councillor Tony Gurney, the Cabinet Member for Green Environment and Economy, said, "This is obviously speculation at this stage, but we would welcome any kind of fresh investment which could potentially provide jobs and provide an economic boost to the area." These 32 locations are part of a wider list of 500 locations across the whole of the UK, where M&S is considering opening new stores by 2028. An article written by Stuart McConnell. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 19th of January. Doctors dismissed signs of a deadly illness. An exclusive article written by Amanda Keenan. A couple have hit out at health bosses after medics failed to spot their daughter was suffering from a life-threatening disease and sent her home with antibiotics and apple juice. Ashley and Robert McGeoch told how they rushed 2-year-old Delilah to A&E at Glasgow's Royal Hospital for Children after she developed a high temperature and a sore throat. After being examined by a doctor, the couple say that they were told the toddler was just dehydrated and told to give her liquids and medicine at home. But over the next few days, Delilah's condition worsened and she developed a golf ball-sized lump on her neck, red palms, strawberry tongue and severe exhaustion. Mum of 4 Ashley exclusively told the Glasgow Times how they rushed the tot back to A&E, only to discover that she was suffering from Kawasaki disease, a rare and serious illness that can cause heart failure if left untreated. Medics told her that if they just waited one more day and missed the window to treat the condition, Delilah could have died. She said, "Call it a mother's intuition, but I just knew that it wasn't tonsillitis. This was something much more serious. The medication she was given wasn't helping and she was so dehydrated that we were having to keep giving her apple juice with water, which was causing her immense pain because her throat was so sore and her glands swollen. It was incredibly distressing. She wouldn't swallow anything else and we were told to keep her hydrated. After taking her home, she slept all the following day and her symptoms got worse. I just wasn't prepared to accept what we were told and took Delilah back to A&E. She was examined by a different doctor who suspected something much more serious and decided to run tests. Delilah, who is a twin to Daisy and sister to Isla, 7, and Robbie, 4, was admitted and given IV antibiotics, but her condition failed to improve. Ashley, who's 31 and from Paisley, added, "By day 10, she wasn't getting any better. At that point, the head of infectious diseases at the hospital came to see us and gave the go-ahead for intravenous immunoglobulin to be administered to treat her for Kawasaki disease. They said that there was a very tight period to get on top of it, and we were just on the cusp. Early treatment to prevent serious damage to the heart is vital, as the antibodies can work straight away. If it was left any longer, our daughter could have suffered heart failure. We were stunned, but also extremely relieved to finally have a diagnosis and treatment to help." Thankfully, the drugs kicked in straight away and Delilah grew stronger. Medics told the couple they didn't know if her developing the extremely rare condition was linked to a previous virus or a possible genetic link. Ashley is now working with the Society Foundation to help raise awareness of the condition. Currently, about a quarter of children affected by Kawasaki disease go on to develop serious, lifelong heart damage. This has been linked to delays in recognising and treating the disease, and campaigners say more needs to be done to ensure that doctors and parents know and quickly recognise symptoms. Ashley and her husband Robert, who's 34, are now looking for ways to bring the issue to the fore and are calling on local landmarks in Glasgow and Renfrewshire to be lit up red on the 26th of January in recognition of Kawasaki Disease Awareness Day. Ashley said it would be incredible if any business or council building could display red lights to help to drive home how vital early detection of the illness is. We're calling for as many people to support us as possible. Thankfully, our daughter is doing well and has heart scans every 3 months to check for any issues. Not every child is as lucky as Delilah, and the only way to change that is to make parents and doctors aware of the symptoms. Early diagnosis saves lives. We are proof of that. Professor Robert Tullow is a paediatric cardiologist and chairman of the Society Foundation, as well as a leading expert on Kawasaki disease. He said, early diagnosis and rapid treatment reduces the risk of children suffering from devastating heart damage. Awareness of the signs and symptoms will help significantly with this, so this campaign will make a difference to children who are affected. A spokesperson for Greater Glasgow and Clyde Health Board said, "While we can't discuss individual patients, we always aim to provide the highest standard of care, and we would welcome Mr. and Mrs. McGeoch to contact us directly. Kawasaki disease is a rare condition and it can be difficult to diagnose in the early stages, as symptoms often overlap with more common childhood illnesses. Our clinical teams follow guidance to ensure that children receive appropriate assessment, monitoring and treatment." An exclusive article written by Amanda Keenan. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 19th of January. A serial rapist is jailed. An article written by Dave Finlay. A serial sex offender who subjected a woman to rape after he was released from prison on licence was jailed for 10 years and 7 months last week. Zachary Rankin subjected his distressed victim to forced unprotected intercourse at her home in Glasgow in June of 2022. Mr. Rankin, who was previously jailed in 2015 for the rape and abuse of 3 other female victims, continued with a sex attack on the medical professional despite her crying and being in pain. The sex attacker also inflicted a course of abusive behaviour on his latest victim between May and August of 2022, during which he threatened her and her friends with violence, inflicted violence on her and monitored her social media. A judge told Mr. Rankin, who's 33, at the High Court in Edinburgh, "These are very serious offences. The aggravating features are manifest." Lord Young ordered that the offender should be under supervision for a further 7 years, when he will be unlicensed in the community and can be returned to prison if he breaches its conditions. The court heard that after meeting his latest victim, Mr. Rankin would often spend time at her flat. Advocate Depute Vish Kathuria said, "Towards the end of April of 2022, Mr. Rankin disclosed that he had previously been in prison for rape. Following this, the woman noticed a change in his behaviour. He would regularly use her mobile phone and laptop, giving the reason that the police monitored his devices," said the prosecutor. He would pretend to be the woman on social media and contacted her friends and deleted photographs that he did not like. After Mr. Rankin revealed his criminal past, the woman tried to avoid sexual contact with him, but he would become aggressive when she refused to have sex. The woman went on holiday with friends to Spain, but Mr. Rankin plagued her with phone calls and texts and flew into a jealous rage when he learned that a former boyfriend was also on the trip abroad. Mr. Rankin rowed with the woman and pushed and punched her and later grabbed her by the neck and threw her to the floor. He raped the victim after telling her that they were going to have sex and grabbing her. Mr. Kathuria said, "She froze and did not say anything through fear, as he was much larger and she was aware of his previous convictions. She was visibly upset and crying, which would have been obvious to him. The woman eventually cut contact with him and, after speaking to her sister, went to the police. Mr. Rankin was recalled to prison in October of 2022. Defence counsel Brian McConaughey said that Mr. Rankin was assessed as posing a medium risk, but was not offered the opportunity for offence-focused work until he was recalled. He said, "These offences are clearly serious offences and made more so by virtue of his previous record." Mr. Rankin was placed on the sex offenders register indefinitely, and the judge made a non-harassment order banning him from contacting the victim. An article written by Dave Finlay.
From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday, the 20th of January 2026, from the Lifestyle section. Lorraine Kelly back on ITV Lorraine after father died slipping on ice. And this article was written by Aidan Maxwell. Lorraine Kelly has made an emotional return to television following the death of her father earlier this month. The ITV presenter appeared back on her daytime show Lorraine on Monday after taking time away to grieve the loss of her dad, John Kelly, who died aged 84 after slipping on an icy path in Scotland. Kelly told viewers she was okay and taking small steps as she continues to navigate her grief. Her father died after what has been described as an icefall tragedy in East Kilbride, South Lanarkshire, during a period of sub-zero temperature. He was found injured in the town and was pronounced dead at the scene. Following the loss, Kelly stepped back from her newly refreshed ITV programme, with Christine Lampard presenting in her absence during last week's episodes. As the new week began, Kelly returned to screens, with Good Morning Britain presenter Susanna Reid sending her lots of love during the preview ahead of Lorraine. She was later joined on the show by Dr. Amir, who also shared his condolences. Speaking openly, Kelly described the programme's team as a family who had supported her through the difficult period. She said, "You just have to go through the process. Anybody that's been there knows how tough it is, but it really does help." Reflecting on the messages she had received from viewers and colleagues, she added, "You see the real kindness in people. That's been lovely." Kelly later admitted she was doing okay and taking small steps as she returned to her routine after Dr. Amir told her he had been worried about her. She said, "Small steps and we will get there. You just have to go through that, I guess." Police are understood to be investigating a slip on ice as part of their inquiries into John Kelly's death. Staff at a nearby Tesco store reportedly found him injured and at around 7 a.m. and alerted emergency services. Kelly previously announced her father's passing in a heartfelt Instagram post, writing, "My dad has died. I am mourning the man who bought me a telescope when I was 5 years old and watched the moon landings with me and taught me to always be curious and interested in everything. He was in poor health, but it has still been a shock. Any of you who have experienced a similar loss will know how my brother Graham and I are feeling. Our priority is taking care of my mum, and the family would very much appreciate privacy at this distressing time." And that article was written by Aidan Maxwell. From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday, the 20th of January 2026, from the Lifestyle section. McGee's Bakery launched chocolate old school cake, and this article was written by Rose Moncur. A classic school dinner favourite is making a comeback with a chocolate twist. McGee's Bakery has launched its chocolate old school cake giving a rich update to the nostalgic school dinner tray bake, and the cake is now available in selected Tesco stores across Scotland. Old School Cake, a soft sponge topped with thick icing and sprinkles, has become a symbol of childhood memories, and McGee's original version has become one of its best sellers. Russell McGee, a fourth-generation baker at McGee's, said, "Old School Cake is one of those bakes that instantly takes people back. We've always had customers telling us they remember it from school dinners, or that it was the treat they hoped would be on the menu. That connection is really important to us. We've been a family bakery for nearly 90 years, and a lot of what we do is about continuity, baking things that people recognise and trust. With the chocolate version, we wanted to keep everything people love about the original, that soft sponge and thick icing, but make it feel a bit more indulgent." The launch comes amid growing demand for retro comfort food, with McGee's reporting a 75% year-on-year increase in Old School Cake production. Tesco began stocking the cake in June 2025 alongside Lidl, and demand has climbed steadily, peaking at double the initial sales levels in the lead-up to Christmas. Barry O'Donnell, local sourcing buying manager at Tesco, said, "We're delighted to be working with McGee's to launch another product in Tesco and continue to build on our strong partnership. Old School Cake has proved popular with customers, and the new chocolate variant adds an extra sense of indulgence." Based in Port Dundas, Glasgow, McGee's is a fourth-generation family-run bakery founded in 1936 and will mark its 90th year in 2026. And that article was written by Rose Monker. From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday, the 20th of January 2026. From the news section. Police Scotland provides update on fire at Glasgow Scotstoun Street, and this article was written by Aidan Maxwell. Police Scotland has provided an update on a fire that took place on Scotstoun Street in Glasgow yesterday afternoon. Emergency services were called to a commercial property on Scotstoun Street at around 4:45 p.m. on Monday, January 19th, 2026. The Scottish Fire and Rescue Service confirmed the blaze affected the ground floor of the building, with images appearing to show the fire had broken out inside a restaurant. Police Scotland has now confirmed the roads have reopened and that the fire is not being treated as suspicious. A Police Scotland's spokesperson said, "Around 5 p.m. on Monday, January the 19th, 2026, we received a report of a fire at Dumbarton Road, Glasgow. Emergency services attended and road closures were put in place at Scotstoun Street at 4 Street. A number of properties were evacuated as a precaution. There were no reports of any injuries. The roads have reopened. The fire is not being treated as suspicious. Operations Control initially dispatched 6 fire appliances and a high-reach vehicle to the scene. Fire crews worked for several hours to tackle the blaze, with 4 appliances remaining in attendance while the fire was extinguished and the area made safe. Emergency services left the scene around midnight. During the incident, Scotstoun Street was locked down at its junction with 4 Street, with police cordons put in place at both ends of the road. Members of the public were advised to avoid the area, and a number of nearby properties were evacuated as a precaution. There were no reports of any injuries. A Scottish Fire and Rescue Service spokesperson said, "We were alerted at 4:45 p.m. on Monday, January the 19th, 2026, to reports of a building fire on Scotstoun Street, Glasgow. Operations Control mobilised 6 fire appliances and specialist resources to the scene, where crews were met with a fire affecting the ground floor of a commercial property. 4 appliances remained in attendance at the scene. There are no reported casualties." In an updated statement, a Scottish Fire and Rescue Service spokesperson said, "We left at 12:30 a.m. and the incident was left with Police Scotland." And this article was written by Aidan Maxwell. From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday, the 20th of January 2026, from the news section. Search for missing Paisley man Kenny Robertson in Thailand. And this article was written by Aidan Maxwell. A search has been launched for a Scottish man who disappeared shortly after arriving in Thailand earlier this month. Kenny Robertson, originally from Paisley, landed at Bangkok Airport on January the 5th and had planned to spend several weeks travelling before volunteering at a dog sanctuary. The 58-year-old, who enjoys travelling and now lives in England, last made contact with loved ones at around 2:30 p.m. on the day of his arrival. He later sent an email to a friend on January the 8th containing a brief message, but friends and family say it is extremely unusual for him not to be in contact for such a prolonged period of time. They also say the kind and considerate man has not been in touch with the dog sanctuary where he had intended to volunteer. A post on Missing People Scotland probes anyone with information to contact the UK Foreign Office and the UK Police with information. The post reads, "Kenny was known to be travelling solo in Thailand. He last made contact with loved ones from Bangkok Airport on January the 5th at 2:30 p.m. It's extremely unusual for him to go this long without making some sort of contact with loved ones. He told loved ones he was going travelling for a few weeks before intending to volunteer at a dog sanctuary, but the dog sanctuary has not had any contact from him. The Foreign Office is assisting with the case." A spokesperson said, "We are supporting the family of a British man who is reported missing in Thailand and are in contact with the local authorities." And this article was by Aidan Maxwell.
This is from the Glasgow Times on the 21st of January 2026, from the news section, and the headline reads, "Jet 2 passenger taken to hospital after emergency at Glasgow Airport." This article was by Aidan Maxwell. A passenger was taken to hospital after a Jet 2 flight was unable to depart from Glasgow Airport this morning, prompting an emergency response on the tarmac. Images supplied to the National show a fire appliance and an ambulance positioned next to what appears to be a Jet 2 aircraft on the airport grounds. The Scottish Ambulance Service, SAS, were called at around 8:21 a.m. and has confirmed a person has been taken to Royal Alexandra Hospital. An SAS spokesperson said, "We received a call at 8:21 to attend an incident at Glasgow Airport. We dispatched an ambulance to the scene and we transported one patient to Royal Alexandra Hospital." Airline Jet 2 has confirmed the incident affected flight LS3701 from Glasgow to Agadir. Jet 2 said, "We can confirm that flight LS3701 from Glasgow to Agadir returned to the stand this morning due to a customer requiring medical assistance. The customer was taken off the aircraft by medical authorities and the flight has since departed for its onward journey." A witness told Glasgow Live, "There was a significant emergency service presence beside an airliner, with flashing blue lights and a number of airport staff and emergency services personnel gathered around the front of the aircraft. It gave a few people cause for concern, as it's not often you see that at an airport. The Scottish Fire and Rescue Service has been approached for comment. This article was by Aidan Maxwell. This is from the Glasgow Times on the 21st of January 2026, from the news section, and the headline reads, New Glasgow campaign offers support after cardiac arrest. This article was by Beth Oliver. A new campaign is highlighting the traumatic impact of witnessing or responding to a cardiac arrest. Chest, Heart and Stroke Scotland, CHSS, has launched a campaign to raise awareness of its out-of-hospital cardiac arrest, OHCA, bystander support service, which offers dedicated emotional support, information and reassurance to people who have performed or witnessed CPR. The campaign, which will run on buses across Glasgow for 4 weeks, highlights the emotional impact people can feel after trying to save someone's life, regardless of the outcome. One story featured in the campaign is that of John from Dundee, who collapsed during a walking match at Torry Glen in December 2024. Thanks to the quick response of Midlothian man David Fairgrieve, who began CPR on the spot, John survived a cardiac arrest that took him completely by surprise. David said, During the game I'd spoken to John, but he doesn't remember. When I turned back he was lying on the pitch. I didn't have to think about what I was going to do. I knew John needed an ambulance, but I also knew he was in trouble if we didn't start resuscitating him. He was changing colour and going grey, so we put him in the recovery position. My face was quite close to his nose, and I was trying to see if he was breathing, and there was no response at all. That's when I knew John was either having a cardiac arrest or a heart attack. John was revived at the second attempt by the defibrillator at the scene. He said, Everything went black. I was dizzy for a split second. The next thing I recall was waking up, and there were people on top of me trying to revive me. Then the medics were there, and they took over. I had no chest pains, and I wasn't out of breath. The cardiac arrest totally came out of the blue, because I've always been fit and well my whole life. It was a huge shock to me. By the time I was in hospital, I was fine. It was bizarre, as if nothing had happened. I was sitting up, having a coffee, and eating a sandwich as normal. It was surreal. While David's intervention saved John's life, the incident has had a powerful impact on him and some bystanders who witnessed the event. David said, I tried not to think about anything else but what I was doing. This wasn't the first time I'd had to do CPR, but I don't think it's something I'd like to get used to. One of my teammates has been quite badly affected by what he saw on the day, because he'd had a cardiac arrest himself, and he was very upset. That's where the support service from Chest, Heart and Stroke Scotland can be so helpful for people. I am lucky that I was able to go home to my family and talk about what happened. I don't know how I'd have felt if I hadn't had them. And I think the positive outcome for both John and the first guy I'd worked on has made a difference to how I feel about it. You do worry that you might have done more harm than good, so seeing the other person recover makes a real difference to your frame of mind. In 2023 to 24, the Scottish Ambulance Service recorded 3,752 out-of-hospital cardiac arrests, more than half of which involved CPR being performed by bystanders before emergency crews arrived. CHSS's OHCA service connects bystanders with specialist practitioners who talk them through the event, address feelings of anxiety or guilt, and help them process what happened. The service, launched in 2023 in partnership with the Scottish Ambulance Service and Save a Life for Scotland, is funded by the Scottish Government. Amanda Baird, Deputy Head of Service Delivery at Chest, Heart and Stroke Scotland, said, The OHCA Bystander Support Service was set up to support people. When you're involved in a cardiac arrest, whether you've carried out CPR or witnessed it, it can be a traumatic experience. We've produced wallet-sized cards promoting our OHCA Bystander Support Service for paramedics to give to members of the public at the scene of the incident. The card includes the CHSS advice line number, so people can immediately call an advisor to talk through what happened. Alan White, Advice and Support Practitioner at Chest, Heart and Stroke Scotland, said, Just talking it through with people makes a big difference. It can validate what they did, and we can reassure them that what they did was the right thing, and that's really important. Most people just haven't experienced anything like that. Even if you were standing watching, the sounds, the noises, the smells, it all affects your senses. It can be terrifying to watch. People think it's a bit like the television. It's all quite clean and safe, but in reality it's not. It's visceral, it's brutal. If you have given or witnessed someone give CPR and would like to contact the OHCA Bystander Support Service, you can do so on 0808 801 0899 at adviceline@chss.org.uk or by texting advice to 66777. This article was by Beth Oliver. This is from the Glasgow Times on the 21st of January 2026 from the news section, and the headline reads, People in Glasgow encouraged to join Jog 28 this February. This article was by Beth Oliver. A new month-long wellbeing challenge is calling on residents to get moving for a good cause. People in Glasgow are being invited to take part in Jog 28, a February fundraiser supporting mental health by encouraging participants to jog, walk or run 28 miles over 28 days. Organised by the Mental Health Foundation, the campaign aims to promote both physical and mental well-being while raising funds for vital mental health work. The challenge is free to join, suitable for all ages and abilities, and encourages participants to set their own fundraising targets. Fiona Holton, Head of Fundraising at the Mental Health Foundation, said, Whether you want to keep up the momentum of a great start to 2026, or, like many of us, are getting through the gruelling first weeks of January and are primed to get up and moving, the Mental Health Foundation has got you covered with Jog 28, a challenge fundraiser that supports not just your physical health and mental well-being, but the vital work of the charity. We are inviting the people of Glasgow to join us on Jog 28. This challenge is about turning up for yourselves by moving, taking in your surroundings, and taking care of your physical health, which will in turn boost your mental well-being. Every participant will receive a Mental Health Foundation t-shirt, subject to availability, and those who raise £30 or more will earn a free beanie. Registration for the event is open now via mentalhealth.org.uk/jog28. The campaign highlights the benefits of regular movement, from stress reduction and improved mood to increased energy levels. It also emphasises the power of social connection, encouraging people to walk or jog with friends to reduce feelings of isolation and build stronger relationships. Fiona said, Things are always easier when shared, and we know connection is key for good mental health. Jog 28 is a perfect opportunity to step out with a friend and catch up whilst improving your well-being. Plus, we know that it's harder to talk past jogging pace, so keep it steady and you'll be able to jog and have a natter. Everyone deserves good mental health, and every step you take on this challenge will help us build a society where everyone can thrive. We are not far away from February and the start of the challenge, so make sure you register in time to take part. This article was by Beth Oliver. This is in the Glasgow Times on the 21st of January 2026 from the news section, and the headline reads, Western Bartonshire taxi driver stripped of licence. This article was by Emily Moore. A Western Bartonshire taxi driver has lost his licence after being found with 4 kilograms of drugs in his boot. Gerald Murphy, 66, was stopped by officers from Cumbria Constabulary near Junction 40 of the M6 at midday on November 22nd, 2025. During a search of the vehicle, around 4 kilograms of cannabis was located in the boot of his Western Bartonshire licensed taxi inside a Hoover box. In addition, £750 of cash was recovered. Mr Murphy of East Clyde Street, Helensburgh, was arrested and appeared at South Cumbria Magistrates Court on November 24th, where he pleaded guilty to possession with intent to supply a Class B drug. He offered no indication of plea to another offence of possessing criminal property, namely £750 in cash. He was set to be sentenced on January 5th, but the court date has since been rescheduled. Police Scotland notified Western Bartonshire Council of the conviction and called for Mr Murphy's licence to be suspended or revoked. The force's chief constable says there are serious concerns over public safety in regards to his licence. Addressing the council's licensing committee, Mr Murphy said, I made a wrong choice. I felt a bit intimidated. I had two choices and I made the wrong one. I have never bothered the police before. I was completely out of my depth. Mr. Murphy confirmed that this was his first offence of this nature to Councillor Pollock when asked. Lawrence O'Neill, chair of the committee, said, "If you are of the opinion he is not a fit and proper person to hold the licence, the committee must consider if his licence is suspended or revoked." Following agreement, Mr. Murphy was stripped of his taxi car licence, which was due to expire on March 6, 2027. In addition, his taxi driver's licence was also revoked, which was due to expire on June 30th, 2026. Mr. Murphy's sentencing date has been rescheduled for February 20th, 2026. This article was by Emily Moore.
That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Tune Review and to tell your friends about our service.